410 days. Steel to spire, ahead of schedule, on budget, in the middle of the Great Depression. Professor Whitfield is here to help us take this one apart, because that number is where the whole process domain begins. That's the Empire State Building. And here is the part that matters for your exam. It didn't come in early because someone was a hero on site. It came in early because there was one integrated plan, and somebody maintained it every single day the cranes were running.
Now hold that against the plan most of us have actually lived with. Someone writes a beautiful project plan to get through the planning gate. It gets approved. It goes in a binder. And by week 3, reality has moved and the binder has not.
The real number isn't 410 days then, it's the gap. A plan that steered a skyscraper for 410 days against a plan that dies in about 3 weeks.
That gap is the entire episode. Same document on paper. One's a living instrument. The other's a paperweight with a nicer cover. And the strange part, the one that trips up people who've run projects for years, is that the good version and the useless version look identical on day 1.
And the exam knows the difference. Process task 1 is called Develop an Integrated Project Management Plan and Plan Delivery. Read it slowly. It's 2 verbs bolted into one task. You don't build the plan over here and deliver over there. Planning is how you deliver, and it never actually stops.
Notice that second verb, plan delivery. The exam even folds an enabler in there, recommend a project execution strategy. So the plan isn't a record of good intentions you file. It's the thing that tells you how the work gets done, in what order, by whom, against what checkpoints.
So planning and doing aren't 2 separate phases. The plan is the steering wheel, not the map you glance at once before you pull out of the driveway.
Right, and hold on to steering wheel, it comes back. The reason we open the whole process domain here is simple. Every other task in this domain, scope, schedule, cost, quality, risk, all of it, lives inside this plan. Build the container wrong, and everything you pour into it leaks out the seams. Task 1 isn't first by accident, it's the one the other 9 stand on.
Which is why we're opening the whole process block with it. This is domain 2. It's the technical core of the exam, and it's the biggest single slice of your score. Take a breath before this number.
41%. Almost half the questions you'll answer live in this domain, and task 1 is the door into it.
Okay, but push on that. 41% of an exam for experienced project managers, and the first thing it tests is writing a plan? We've all written 100 plans. Why is that the hard part?
You've written 100 documents, Fenrir. The trap is thinking the document is the plan. You produce it, you feel done, and the moment the ground shifts, you stop reading it and start running on instinct.
And on the exam, instinct is the wrong answer. This is the people domain lesson moved into process. Your experience tells you the plan was the thing you finished. PMI treats the plan as the thing you keep.
And that's the experience trap on this exact task. A finished plan feels like a solved problem, so the moment execution starts, you stop maintaining it. The decision filter step it breaks is the one running under this entire domain. Assess before you act. The plan is how you keep assessing, not a thing you finished assessing at the gate. There's one line in this task, in PMI's own words, that draws that exact line between a plan that holds and a binder that doesn't. We'll put it on the screen in a few minutes, and I promise it is not the line you'd guess.
Pin that. And before we go further, since it genuinely helps, everything we drill lives free at certs.professorerica.com. Free practice questions, free flashcards sorted by domain, process task 1 right there. Go use them tonight.
So here's the map for the next half hour. What actually goes into an integrated plan? Why integration, not the pages, is the whole point. The one word that keeps it alive. And then how it tells you to deliver.
And the question I want answered by the end is the uncomfortable one. If your plan is perfect on paper, why does it fall apart in month 3?
Because the plan on paper was never the point. Let's go build the one that holds. Real quick, because this next part matters to you. If any of this is helping, tap that like button, then hit subscribe and ring the bell so the next one finds you. Both are free and take about a second, but they tell the algorithm to show this to one more person who needs it.
PMI says, create an integrated project management plan. Fine. But what is actually in the thing? Because the word integrated is doing all the work, and most experienced managers skate right past it. The plan isn't one document, it's the container. Underneath it sit the subsidiary plans, one for each area you manage. How you'll handle scope, schedule, cost, quality, risk, resources, communications, procurement, stakeholders. Each one says how you'll plan and control that area.
Fine, but that's just a stack of documents. So the integrated plan is what? All of them stapled together with a cover page?
No, that's not what integration means, and I'm going to hold you there until we name why. A binder is a stack. A plan is a stack that agrees with itself.
Grace is right, and it's PMI's word, not ours. There's an enabler on this task, and we'll show it to you on the actual page that says assess the consolidated plans for dependencies and gaps. That's the tell. Integration is the act of making the plans reconcile.
Okay, give me the gap. What does a plan that doesn't reconcile actually look like?
Picture a coordinator we'll call Priya, runs hybrid infrastructure rollouts, comfortable with a Gantt chart and a procurement schedule, genuinely good. And her habit is to own every plan herself. She builds the schedule, she builds the risk register, she builds the resource plan. Heads down, each one excellent.
And because she built them one at a time, in separate sittings, nobody ever laid them side by side. Her schedule assumes a database engineer starting in March. Her resource plan doesn't hire that engineer until May. Both plans are correct. Together, they're a 2-month hole nobody sees until March.
That's the gap. Not a bad plan. 2 good plans that never met.
That's exactly it. And it's why integration is a verb, not a binder clip. You lay the plans on top of each other and you hunt for the seams. A schedule that needs a person the resource plan never staffs. A risk response with no money in the cost plan. The gaps live between the documents, never inside them.
Give me the money one because that's the seam people actually get burned on.
The risk register says if the vendor slips, we bring in a second supplier. Good response. Costs $200,000. Now open the cost plan. There's no contingency line for it. So the response exists on paper and is impossible in practice. The risk plan and the cost plan never shook hands. That's a gap, and you only see it when you hold both pages up to the light.
An integration is also where 2 quieter enablers live that experienced managers skip. Recommend a project execution strategy, that's the how we actually deliver piece, and determine critical information requirements, and the outline names sustainability right in it. So part of building the plan is deciding upfront what you're obligated to track. On a modern exam, that increasingly includes the environmental and social footprint, not just cost and schedule.
So how many of these subsidiary plans are we actually talking about? Because people wildly underestimate this. Fenrir, take a real guess before I say it. How many separate management plans roll up into the one integrated plan?
3. Scope, schedule, cost. The classic triangle.
10. Roughly 10 subsidiary management plans over 3 baselines, plus a few extras like change control and configuration. Not 3. And that miss is the point, because most experienced managers just answered 3 too. You manage all 10 in your head. You've never seen them written down and reconciled in one place.
One honest flag, because it matters. That list of 10, the baselines, all of it, that's PMI's guide talking, the deeper standard. The exam outline just says create an integrated plan, so don't memorize 10 names for the test. Understand the move. The move is reconcile.
Here's what gets me though. Every experienced manager watching is thinking, I already do this in my head. I know the schedule needs that engineer in March. Why does it have to be written down?
Your head holds one plan at a time. Reconciling means holding 2 of them at once and hunting for where they disagree, and you just can't do that from memory. That's the whole reason PMI wants it consolidated in one place where the seams are visible. In your head, every plan is correct. Laid on the table, they argue with each other.
Integration's also where you meet a real success, not just a warning. A plan this reconciled built this. The Millau Viaduct in southern France. Taller than the Eiffel Tower, built over a river gorge, and it opened on schedule because the schedule, the cost, the procurement, and the risk plans all told the same story. That's what a reconciled plan buys you.
And one more thing lives inside the plan that experienced managers love to hand-wave. A number. The exam lists an enabler right there. Estimate work effort and resource requirements. The integrated plan isn't vibes. Under it sits an estimate you can defend, work package by work package.
Built from the bottom up. You don't guess the total. You estimate the small pieces and roll them up. Watch it come together. Discovery and design, 260 hours.
Build, 640.
320 to integrate and test. 180 to deploy and hand over.
1,400 hours. And here's why bottom-up beats a gut number. When someone challenges the total, you don't defend 1,400. You defend the 4 rows under it. That's a plan that survives a steering committee.
So the plan reconciles 10 things and carries a defensible number. Fine, but it's still a snapshot. The second the project starts moving, isn't all of this out of date?
That is exactly the right question, and it's the one word this whole task turns on. Let's go read it off PMI's own page. I promised you one line, in PMI's own words, that separates a plan that holds from a binder that doesn't. Whitfield's been sitting on it all episode. Whitfield, put the real page up.
And read it exactly as PMI wrote it, not the way the prep blogs paraphrase it. This is the primary source. It's the whole reason to trust the answer.
This is process task 1, straight from the July 2026 exam content outline, 9 enablers. And I want 3 of them, because together they are the whole job. Read that last one out loud. Maintain the integrated project management plan. Not write it, not approve it, maintain it. I'll be honest, this is the enabler I see skipped more than any other on this task, because it's the least dramatic. That single verb is the difference the Empire State understood and the binder never did. The plan is a living instrument.
And that word settles something. Your experience says the plan is the deliverable you finish to pass the gate. PMI's own enabler says the plan is the thing you keep alive. Both feelings are understandable. Only one is the answer.
So if it's living, and reality keeps changing it, here's the trap sitting right underneath. A change comes in. The experienced move is to quietly update the schedule and keep going. Fast, clean, no drama. And on the exam, wrong.
Wait, you said keep the plan current. Now don't update it? Which is it?
Both. And the seam between them is the whole exam trick. The plan is living, the baseline is not. 2 different things wearing similar clothes.
Let me lay them side by side because this is the table to screenshot.
The plan reflects where you are now, so you keep it current. The baseline is the signed-off promise, scope, schedule, and cost, frozen on purpose, so you always know how far reality has drifted from what was approved. You never quietly move the baseline. That's not maintenance, that's erasing the evidence.
Give people the concrete version. You baselined the budget at $2 million. You're now tracking to 2.3 million. Quietly change the baseline to 2.3. And every variance report suddenly says you're on budget. You've just hidden a $300,000 overrun from the one sponsor who could have helped you fix it. The baseline exists precisely so that number can't vanish. So a real change goes through integrated change control. You assess what it hits across the whole reconciled plan. And if it's approved, the baseline moves on the record, out loud. The trap is treating a baseline change like a typo fix.
And the word integrated in integrated change control is the same word from scene 2. You don't assess a change against just the schedule, you trace it through every reconciled plan. A date change touches cost. Cost touches procurement. procurement touches risk. That's why one honest impact assessment beats 10 quiet edits. Because the quiet edits each ignore the seams you spent all that effort reconciling.
Pull us back a second, because there's a bigger question hiding under all this change control mechanics. Read the enabler just above maintain. Assess the consolidated plans for continued business value. So the real question maintenance asks isn't only, does the plan still match reality? It's, does this project still deliver something worth delivering?
It reframes the whole job, really. If the world moved and the plan now points at a benefit nobody wants anymore, maintaining it doesn't mean marching faster to the milestone. It means putting the value question on the table. A plan you keep alive is also, and people forget this, a plan you're willing to stop.
Okay, that one lands. I hate how clean it is. Continue.
And there's a second half to maintain that saves experienced managers from over-planning. You do not have to plan every detail on day one. You genuinely can't. The plan gets more detailed as you reach the work.
That's rolling wave, near-term work, planned to the task. Far-term work, planned to the milestone, filled in as you get there. Watch how the detail arrives.
Which kills a specific anxiety. The experienced coordinator who thinks a good plan means every cell filled in on day one is planning a fiction. You elaborate progressively, detail the wave you're in, sketch the horizon. That's not sloppy, that's PMI's own model.
And nowhere is reconcile and maintain more real than a project where the pieces literally cannot be redone. Look at this one.
The International Space Station. Modules built on different continents by different agencies years apart, and they had to dock in orbit on the first try. That is one integrated plan across a dozen dependencies maintained for decades. A gap between two of those subsidiary plans isn't a 2-month hole. It's a module that doesn't fit in space.
Whitfield, that's the sharpest thing on the board today, that a gap between plans is the real risk, not a flaw inside any one of them. Thank you for that. That's the reconcile lesson in one image.
Glad to help. Keep the plan current, keep the baseline honest.
So we've got a plan that reconciles, and a plan that stays alive. The last question is the one experienced managers argue about most. How much of it should you actually write before you start?
Watch the fight experienced managers actually have. One camp builds a 200-page plan before anyone lifts a finger. The other camp says plans are waste, just start and figure it out, and the exam has an opinion about both.
Steelman the heavy side first, because it's not crazy. Picture that same coordinator, Priya, with her fully detailed plan. On a regulated data center migration with assigned scope and an auditor waiting, that thick plan is exactly right. The baseline is the contract. Every detail earns its place.
And the other side isn't crazy either. Picture a software lead, Marcus, 5 years running sprint teams, whose whole instinct is to start, ship a slice, and learn. On evolving product work, a 200-page plan is a 200-page work of fiction. So obviously the modern exam wants less planning. Start lighter, adapt.
That's the trap, Fenrir, and it's a good one. You just framed it as how much to plan, high or low. And that's the wrong axis entirely.
The premise is wrong. The exam isn't asking how much to plan.
It's asking which approach fits the work. And that's the first enabler on the whole task before you write a single line. Assess project needs, complexity, and magnitude. Then recommend the approach. Predictive, adaptive, or hybrid.
So both things are true. A heavy plan protects a stable, signed-off, regulated project and strangles an evolving one. Priya isn't wrong to plan deeply. Marcus isn't wrong to plan lightly. They're each answering for their own work and calling it a universal rule. The exam wants you to read the work first.
And the third option is the one that actually wins most real scenarios. Hybrid, a predictive backbone where the ground is stable, adaptive pockets where it isn't.
Which is the tailoring cue the exam loves. Priya defaulting everything to predictive misses it. Marcus defaulting everything to adaptive misses it too. The signal that a scenario wants hybrid is when one part of the work is locked and signed and another part is genuinely still being discovered. You don't pick a camp, you pick per part of the project.
The answer to how much plan is enough is genuinely it depends. But, and this is the part that matters, It depends on something you can actually read off the work, not a vibe.
Let me give you the honest analogy for the part everyone gets wrong. The idea that you plan the far future in less detail. Think about streaming a movie, the few seconds buffered ahead in full detail. That's your near-term work, planned to the task. The rest of the film, still low resolution, still loading, that's the far-term work, planned at the milestone level. And pressing play, moving forward, that's the project actually running. The detail loads as you get closer to it.
Okay, but I'll push on that. What happens when the connection is perfect and the whole film has already downloaded? Then you'd plan the entire thing up front, and that's the honest catch. Unlike a stream, if you never buffer ahead at all, you're not being adaptive. You're just winging it and calling it agile.
Right, so say it plainly, no metaphor. Rolling wave means you plan the near term in real detail and the far term in outline, and you add detail as you arrive. That's a stable connection, so download it all. Volatile work is a slow connection, so buffer a bit ahead and keep loading. Not no plan. Progressive detail.
And a stable project on a bad connection approach is the worst of both. You keep replanning something that never changed.
Which is why none of this is a one-time act. The plan runs on a loop. You plan, you execute, you measure what actually happened, and you adapt the plan, and around again. Watch it turn.
That loop is the last enabler on the task, quietly. Collect and analyze data to make informed decisions. The plan doesn't just guide the work. The work feeds the plan back. It's the maintain word in motion.
You want to see a tailored plan that got this exactly right? A predictive backbone with adaptive delivery underneath it. Built this.
The Burj Khalifa, the tallest building on Earth. The overall program was locked and predictive, it had to be. But the construction pushed the design higher as they learned what the structure could take, floor by floor. Firm backbone, adaptive detail. That's tailoring, not a coin flip.
The whole how much plan fight dissolves then. You read the work, you pick the approach, and the plan detail just follows from that.
That's it. Now let's prove you can do it under exam pressure. 2 scenarios, 4 answers each, and 1 word that decides both. Drill 1. You're 4 months into an approved baselined project. A senior stakeholder asks for 1 new feature. Small, they say. Your experienced instinct is to add it to the schedule and keep moving. What do you actually do first?
4 plausible answers. A. Add it to the schedule and absorb it, it's small. B. Refuse it, the scope is baselined. C. Escalate it to the sponsor immediately. Or D. Assess its impact across the whole plan through change control, then decide.
And A is so tempting. It's 1 feature. Saying you need a change process for 1 feature sounds like bureaucracy.
It sounds like bureaucracy right up until that 1 small feature needs a database change, which needs a security review, which slips the test window, which blows the date you baselined. Small in scope is not small in the plan.
So it's D. And notice B is wrong too. Refusing a change outright isn't discipline, it's the same rigidity, just pointed the other way. The answer is never automatically yes or automatically no, it's assessed first. That's integrated change control, and it's the reconcile step from scene 2 doing its job.
And C, escalate to the sponsor immediately? That's the reflex we've spent the whole series unlearning.
Right. C jumps a step. You don't hand the sponsor a change you haven't assessed yet that just moves your homework onto their desk. You assess the impact first, then you bring them a decision with the trade-offs attached. Escalation isn't banned, it's a step with a threshold. And the threshold is after the assessment, not instead of it.
The decision filter step underneath it is the one we keep coming back to. Assess before you act. You don't touch the baseline until you've traced what the change actually hits.
Drill 2. 6 months in, the world moved. A competitor shipped, the market shifted, and your approved plan now points at the wrong outcome. Do you A, keep executing the plan, it's approved, or B, drop the plan and just react to the market?
Or C, keep executing but flag it at the next review. Or D, take the changed reality through the process and update the integrated plan in its baseline so it points at the right outcome again.
And here's where an experienced manager splits. Half cling to the approved plan because it's approved. Half throw it out and start winging it. Both are the same mistake, wearing opposite clothes. So the answer is you.
You scrap it and rebuild from scratch.
Not scrap. Maintain. You update it through the process. Scrapping it is just the binder in a different drawer, and clinging to it is the binder on the shelf. Maintain is the living middle, and it's the exact enabler we read off the page. The plan serves the project. When reality moves, the plan moves with it, on the record.
And C, keep executing but just flag it at the next review is the quiet, comfortable wrong answer. It feels responsible. But you're knowingly running a plan that points at the wrong outcome for another few weeks. The moment you know reality moved, the plan is already out of date. Maintain means now, through the process, not at a convenient meeting later.
So both drills have the same shape. The tempting answer is do the small thing quietly, and the correct answer is run it through the plan, every time.
This is the whole task in one habit, really. A plan you keep honest against reality through the process for as long as the work runs. Which, at the largest scale imaginable, looks like this. The Three Gorges Dam. Planned and replanned across more than a decade, one integrated plan maintained through a generation of changes, and it still delivered against its baseline. Not because the first plan was perfect, because the plan never stopped being alive.
So that's process task 1. Assess the work, pick the approach, integrate the plans so they reconcile, and then maintain the whole thing as a living instrument. That's the door into the process domain. And every task after this one lives inside the plan you just learned to build. Next episode, we go through that door to scope.
And go drill task 1 free at certs.professorerica.com. The practice questions and flashcards are sorted by domain and they're waiting.
If this is helping you actually get ready, the one thing I'll ask is that you subscribe so the rest of the process domain reaches you in order, one task at a time. That's the whole favor. And before we go, here's the honest test of everything we said today. When your project changed under you, did your plan change with it, or did you just stop reading it? Build the plan that holds, keep it alive, and we'll see you in the process domain. Take care.